Queen Elira had never prayed on her knees before. She stood instead because her legs refused to bend, because queens of the Lithari elves did not kneel, and because fear had locked her body in place. Her hands were clasped tightly at her chest, silver armor smeared with ash and glowing blood, while the sky above her palace burned. The capital forest, once a living cathedral of light, was dying. Towering crystal trees shattered as enemy fire tore through their trunks. Ancient roots screamed when they split, releasing blue sap that steamed like wounded breath. Every explosion echoed through Elira's skull, each one a reminder that this war was already lost. I am failing them, she thought, and the thought hurt worse than the wounds along her side. Behind her, ranks of royal soldiers held formation. Their silver armor gleamed even as smoke swallowed the air. Spears trembled in their grips, not from cowardice, but from knowing they were standing at the end of history. Elira felt their eyes on her back. She was young for a queen, barely 23 cycles, crowned after her mother vanished during first contact with the outer stars. Since then, every decision had been a gamble, every victory temporary, every mistake unforgivable. Now the Doom Armada had arrived. They were not conquerors, they were erasers. Black vessels shaped like broken moons hovered above the forest, humming with a sound that scraped the soul. The enemy did not broadcast demands or threats, they simply advanced, silent, certain, absolute. Elira lifted her blue eyes toward the sky, ignoring the sting of tears. Her crown, ornate silver, etched with prayers older than her species, felt impossibly heavy. "This is my fault," she whispered. Her general Vale stood a step behind her. His voice was hoarse. "Majesty, we should retreat underground. The sanctum may." "There is nowhere left," Elira replied softly. Her voice carried anyway. Queens were trained for that. Another blast struck close. The shockwave threw several soldiers to the ground. Someone screamed. Someone else did not get back up. That was when Elira felt it. A pressure not from above but from elsewhere, like the world holding its breath. Her ears rang. The battlefield sounds faded, replaced by a deep, unfamiliar silence. Even the Doom Armada's hum faltered just slightly, like a predator pausing mid-strike. Elira frowned. "What is that?" Vale asked. Before anyone could answer, the air in front of Elira split. Not exploded, not burned. It opened. A vertical seam of light tore through reality itself, glowing white gold, sharp and clean. Wind rushed inward, dragging ash, leaves, and sparks into THE Chinese letter. Soldiers staggered back in confusion, spears raised. Elira did not move. Her heart pounded, but her fear shifted. The tear widened. Symbols flared along its edges, unknown, angular, nothing like elven runes. The ground beneath it cracked, glowing faintly red. Then something fell out. Not a monster. Not a god. A man. He hit the earth hard, rolled once, and came to a stop at Elira's feet. Dirt and leaves clung to his dark clothing. His chest rose and fell rapidly. A faint blue light flickered along a strange device strapped to his wrist. The tear snapped shut behind him. Silence crashed down like a wave. Dozens of spears immediately leveled at the fallen stranger. "Don't," Elira shouted. The word escaped her mouth before thought caught up. Vale stared at her. "Majesty." She stepped forward, armor scraping softly. The man groaned and pushed himself onto one elbow. His hair was dark, his face smudged with blood, and his eyes. His eyes opened. Brown, warm, terrified, human. Elira knew the word from forbidden records. A species rumored to be fragile, reckless, and impossibly stubborn. A species her mother had believed could change everything. The man looked up at her silver armor, her crown, her pointed ears, and the burning sky beyond. His breath hitched. "Okay," he muttered. "That worked way better than expected." Elira stared down at him, heart racing. Above them, the Doom Armada began to move again. "Faster now." Vale leaned close, voice urgent. "Queen Elira, give the order. We must kill him or flee." She looked at the strange human who had fallen from nowhere, at the impossible tear that had answered her silent prayer, and felt something ancient stir inside her chest. Hope, for the first time since the war began. No, she said quietly, then louder with steel in her voice. Lower your weapons, all of you. The soldiers hesitated. Elira extended a hand toward the human, ignoring the enemy fleet descending from the clouds. You arrived when the universe itself had cornered us, she said. If you are doomed, then we are already dead. Her fingers trembled as he took her hand. But if you are salvation, she whispered, then everything is about to change. The human did not bow. That alone stunned the court more than his sudden arrival. Queen Elira expected fear, confusion, maybe even worship. Instead, the man pushed himself fully upright, brushed dirt from his sleeves, and stared past her, straight at the black shapes descending through the clouds. Well, he said quietly, squinting, that's bad timing. Vale stepped forward, spear aimed at the man's throat. Kneel before your queen, outsider. The human glanced at the spear, then at Vale, then back at Elira. His mouth twitched, not with mockery, but with something dangerously close to a smile. Sorry, he said. I don't kneel for royalty, bad experiences. Gasps rippled through the soldiers. Vale's grip tightened. Majesty, give the word. Elira raised one finger. The Doom Armada loomed closer now, massive ships eclipsing the sun. Their hulls unfolded like mechanical ribs, revealing glowing weapons that pulsed in slow, patient rhythms. The end was counting down. Elira studied the human's face. He was injured, she could see blood seeping through his sleeve. Exhausted, afraid, though he tried to hide it. But beneath all that was something else. Defiance. Who are you? She asked. The human exhaled and tapped the device on his wrist. Name, Ethan Cole, engineer, explorer, accidental time-displaced problem solver. That earned a few confused looks. He met her eyes directly. No awe, no submission, just honesty. And you, he added, nodding at her crown, look like someone who just ran out of options. Elira swallowed. That fleet, she said, has ended 100 worlds. We have minutes at best. Ethan followed her gaze skyward. His jaw tightened, not in despair, but calculation. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Vale scoffed. You expect us to trust a creature who falls from the sky and speaks riddles. Ethan shot him a look. You expect to survive doing the same thing that's already failing. The tension snapped tight. Elira felt it then, something shifting among her people. Not hope yet, but curiosity, a crack in the certainty of defeat. What did you mean, she asked carefully, when you said that worked? Ethan hesitated. His fingers hovered over the device on his wrist, thumb brushing a scorched edge. I wasn't aiming for your world, he admitted. I was running. From them, Elira asked. From something worse, he replied. Then seeing her expression, he added, but yeah, they were part of the problem. The first shot fired without warning. A beam of void energy speared into the forest behind them, vaporizing a tower of crystal and leaving a crater that glowed sickly purple. Screams erupted. Elira didn't flinch. Instead, she did something no Lithari queen had done in 1,000 years. She removed her crown. Gasps turned into shocked silence as she pressed the silver circlet into Vale's hands. Protect our people, she said. If I fall, lead them. Majesty. She turned back to Ethan. If you know a way to slow them, even briefly, tell me now. Ethan stared at the crown, then at the approaching armada. His voice dropped. I can't promise victory, he said, but I can promise chaos. Elira almost laughed. Do it. Ethan's eyes lit with sudden focus. He slapped his wrist device, and the blue glow flared brighter than before. The ground beneath his feet vibrated. What are you doing? Vale demanded. Calling in a favor, Ethan replied, from my people. The sky answered. A sound rolled across the battlefield. Not like thunder, not like engines, but like the tearing of metal stretched too far. Space itself bent, folding inward as red lines carved symbols across the clouds. The Doom Armada faltered. For the first time since their arrival, the enemy ships changed formation. They were reacting. Ethan staggered, dropping to one knee as the device overheated. Smoke curled from it. Alira rushed forward and caught him before he fell. Up close he smelled like ozone and ash. His heartbeat was fast, strong, stubborn. "You're hurt," she said. "So are you," he replied weakly. "Guess that makes us even." A distant roar echoed from above. Something was coming through the rift Ethan had opened. Something big. Something human. Alira looked up at the burning sky, at the enemy that had erased her hope, and felt a strange, dangerous emotion bloom in her chest. Anticipation. "If your people are anything like you," she said softly, tightening her grip on him, "then the universe has badly underestimated them." Ethan smiled, tired, fierce, unafraid. "Yeah," he said, "it usually does." The sky above the Lithari capital was a storm of shadows and fire. The Doom Armada hovered like a swarm of black locusts, their weapons primed to erase every last tree, every last life. Alira's silver armor gleamed dimly under the burning light, but she didn't care about shine or appearance anymore. Her focus was Ethan, the human who had appeared from nowhere, whose very presence made her feel both terrified and alive. "Stay close," she whispered, gripping his arm as he struggled to stand. "If you fall, we fall." "I've fallen before," Ethan muttered with a half-smile, though his face was smeared with ash and blood. "Doesn't mean I stay down." Vale shot her a warning glance. "Majesty, we don't know what this human can do. One wrong move and—" "I know," she snapped, "and I trust him." Vale hesitated, but Alira's gaze, steady, unyielding, stopped him. Soldiers around them whispered among themselves, tension breaking only slightly at the sight of her defiance. Ethan's wrist device pulsed brighter and he staggered forward, scanning the horizon. Symbols of light danced across its surface, moving faster than the human eye could follow. "Okay," he said, voice low. "This is the part where I hope your soldiers are good at following orders." "What are you doing?" Alira asked. "Making a distraction," he replied. "Something to give you breathing room, something that'll hurt them more than they think it can." Before she could protest, the device released a pulse. The ground shook violently, and energy shot into the sky, forming a barrier of blinding blue light that pushed the first wave of enemy ships back. Sparks rained down as the Doom Armada recalibrated, their massive black hulls struggling against the sudden, unnatural force. Soldiers yelled, cheering despite the fear in their hearts. The Lithari had never seen magic or science like this. The forest itself seemed to respond, branches bending toward the energy, roots shifting to protect the wounded. "Move," Ethan shouted. "Follow me." He sprinted toward the forest edge, with Alira keeping pace. Vale and the silver-armored soldiers fell in line, forming a protective shield behind them. Every step shook the ground, every heartbeat felt like a drum of war. Suddenly, a massive shadow descended. One of the Doom Armada's dreadnoughts, larger than any city tower, hovered just above the treetops. Its weapons glowed with lethal intent. Ethan raised his wrist. "This is going to hurt, a lot." "What do you mean?" Alira asked. "I mean I'm about to borrow some human ingenuity," he said, and pressed the device to the ground. A surge of energy erupted outward, splitting the forest like lightning. Trees crumbled, but the blast carried with it a wave that knocked the dreadnought off balance. Sparks flew as its hull screamed under stress, and the soldiers watched, mouths agape, as the impossible happened. The massive ship wobbled, as if struggling against a force it could not comprehend. Alira felt her chest tighten. This human, he was reckless, brilliant, and dangerously alive. "You're insane," she muttered, though part of her heart soared. Ethan's eyes flicked toward her. "Maybe, but sometimes that's what saves the day." From the smoke and chaos, a shrill scream pierced the air, a signal from the enemy fleet. The dreadnought's allies moved in, but Ethan's pulse emitted another burst, throwing some of them back. Still, more were coming, and the Lithari soldiers were stretched thin. Elira realized then something terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. She didn't just trust him because he was human. She trusted him because he fought. Not with magic, not with orders, not with fear. He fought with sheer will. The forest around them groaned and cracked under the strain, but Ethan didn't stop. He surged forward again, dragging Elira with him. "This way!" he yelled. They reached a narrow cliff overlooking a chasm. The drop was dizzying, but it gave them a vantage point. Ethan raised his device once more, and the air shimmered like glass. The enemy ships froze mid-flight, their systems disrupted by the unknown energy. Elira gasped, What is this?" "Me," Ethan said simply, as if that explained everything. For the first time in years, Elira felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Hope. Fragile, dangerous, exhilarating hope. Then, from the edge of the chasm, a single beam of light tore through the darkness. A new fleet, unknown, alien, yet somehow familiar. The Doom Armada faltered, their formation breaking apart. Ethan looked at her, face grim. "They're not done yet, but we just bought a little breathing room." Elira nodded, chest pounding. "Breathing room is enough," she said, "for now." And in that moment, as the strange human and the young queen stared at the approaching enemy and the first hint of salvation, the Lithari realized that their story was far from over. Somewhere in the chaos, something had shifted, and the universe would never be the same again. But the question lingered in both their minds: who had truly arrived to save whom? The chasm below rumbled ominously, and Elira's grip on Ethan tightened. Something was coming, something bigger than either of them expected. The wind tore through the shattered forest, carrying the smell of scorched wood and something metallic, something alive. Queen Elira's silver armor clinked as she ran beside Ethan, who moved with surprising agility despite the smoke and chaos. Behind them, Vale and the soldiers held formation, their spears angled at the descending fleet, but even their courage wavered under the overwhelming force of the Doom Armada. Ethan's wrist device pulsed constantly, a throbbing blue light that cast sharp shadows across their faces. "Keep moving," he shouted, voice cracking over the roar of engines and exploding crystal trees. "If we get to the sanctum, we can, maybe, turn this tide." Elira's heart hammered. Sanctum. The ancient Lithari structure hidden deep beneath the oldest crystal grove, sealed with spells that no outsider had touched for centuries. Her ancestors had warned her that even the bravest warriors could not survive its trials without guidance. Yet here she was, following a stranger from another world, praying that his wild gamble wasn't a death sentence. The ground trembled beneath their feet. A massive shadow moved above, black ships slicing through the sun, and from their hulls, energy beams rained down. Soldiers fell, screaming, dust and ash mixing with blood. Elira pressed herself against Ethan as another beam struck the ground nearby, carving a glowing crater. "This is insane," Vale shouted. "We can't hold them." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Then we do keep up." Elira's blue eyes met his, and for the first time, fear twisted into something else: exhilaration. She had survived battles, seen entire cities fall, but she had never felt the way she did now. Alive in the storm, alive because she had no choice but to trust him. The sanctum's entrance emerged through a curtain of smoke, a colossal archway carved from living crystal, etched with symbols older than the stars. Its surface shimmered, responding to Elira's touch as if recognizing her bloodline. She hesitated for only a second, then pushed forward, pulling Ethan with her. Inside, the sanctum was a world apart. The air hummed with energy, thick and tangible. Pools of light hovered over the stone floor, casting long shadows across the ornate carvings of elven heroes long gone. Ancient runes glowed faintly as Elira approached the central chamber. "This is it," she whispered. "The heart chamber, if we can activate it." Ethan scanned the room, his brow furrowed. "Activate it? You mean magic?" "More than magic," Elira said. "It's the essence of our people's will. Only a queen can awaken it." She stepped onto the central pedestal, feeling the pulse of power beneath her feet. Her hands hovered over a crystal orb that radiated pure light. Every fiber of her being screamed in recognition, a song only she could hear. Ethan knelt nearby, studying the glowing orb. You sure you want to do this? Elira's eyes hardened. I have no choice, this is the only way. Before she could touch the orb, the ground shuddered violently. The Doom Armada's energy beams pierced the sanctum walls, cracking the crystal. Dust filled the air, stinging their eyes. A loud, mechanical screech echoed through the chamber, the sound of a warship tearing itself free from reality. Ethan cursed under his breath. They found us, faster than I thought. Elira touched the orb. Light surged through her, a burning warmth that filled her chest and mind. She saw visions of her ancestors, of worlds destroyed and saved, of sacrifices made for the survival of their people. Then she saw Ethan, not as a stranger, but as a force of something greater, someone who could tip the balance of fate itself. The orb reacted to her will. A barrier of radiant energy erupted, filling the chamber, pushing back the Doom Armada's assault. The ships wavered, their engines screaming as if pained by the Sanctum's power. Ethan stood awestruck, then grinned. Well, that's new. Elira's gaze met his again. For a brief heartbeat, the chaos outside fell away. She saw the determination in his eyes, the reckless bravery, and the bond forming between them, unexpected, unstoppable. Then a low hum echoed beneath the chamber. The crystal floor cracked further, and a rift tore open in the center of the orb's light, a twisting vortex of energy, unlike anything Elira had ever seen. The heart, it's unstable, she gasped. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Or it's a doorway. A surge of darkness attempted to claw through, and the room shook violently. Elira grabbed Ethan's arm. We have to jump. Jump, he yelled, staring at the abyss. Into that. No choice, she said, her voice calm despite the chaos. Trust me. They leaped together into the glowing rift, the sanctum collapsing behind them, soldiers screaming, the Doom Armada raging above. The world twisted, colors and shapes blending into impossible patterns. Elira felt herself falling, and yet for the first time she didn't feel fear. She felt alive. And Ethan, human, reckless, miraculous, was falling with her. The last thought that crossed her mind before the void swallowed them completely. Maybe salvation always comes from the most unexpected place. The world reformed around them like a dream painted in violent colors. Elira's silver armor felt impossibly heavy, yet she could move with ease. Ethan landed beside her with a roll, smearing dust across his sleeves, but otherwise unscathed. The rift behind them shimmered and winked out of existence, leaving only a vast, alien landscape stretching endlessly under a crimson sky. Where are we? Elira asked, clutching the edges of her armor. Her blue eyes scanned the horizon. Jagged mountains glowed faintly from within, rivers of silver light flowed through valleys, and enormous creatures, like living shadows, moved silently in the distance. Ethan brushed ash from his hair, squinting. Welcome, I think, to somewhere you're not supposed to be. Elira's pulse quickened. Not supposed to be, do you mean another world? He nodded grim. Yeah, I didn't plan this part either. Vale appeared behind them, disoriented but standing firm. Majesty, what has he done? Where is the sanctum? It's gone, Elira said softly, her heart sinking. The rift took us somewhere else. Ethan turned to her, his expression serious now. Look, this isn't just a random place. The energy from your heart chamber, combined with my device, created a bridge. We're in a pocket universe. Safe for now, but not for long. Elira's stomach twisted. Safe, yet not safe. Her people were still out there, still under attack. Her soldiers, her home, her world, all vulnerable. She clenched her fists. Then we have to return. We can't let them. Wait, Ethan interrupted. There's something here, something big. From the crimson horizon, a figure emerged, towering, luminous, with wings of light that shimmered like molten metal. Its eyes, countless, shifting, and impossibly intelligent, fixed on them. It moved without sound, yet every footstep made the ground vibrate beneath their feet. Elira instinctively stepped in front of Ethan. Who are you? She demanded, voice strong despite the fear twisting through her. The figure tilted its head, then it spoke, not with words but with a voice in her mind. The bridge is unstable. The invaders follow you. You are not safe, child of Lithari, but your arrival was expected. Alira froze, expected. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Wait, you can hear that too. Yes, she said, voice shaking. It knows us. The figure extended a radiant hand. I am the keeper of the rift. You have drawn power not meant to be drawn. The Doom Armada's influence spreads even here. If you fail, both worlds will burn. Alira swallowed. She had faced death before. She had stared at annihilation and kept her voice calm. But this was different. This was beyond everything she had known. What do we do? She whispered almost to herself. You must fight, the keeper replied. Not alone, but not together either. You will need him and he will need you. Only combined can you push the darkness back. Ethan shifted uneasily. Great, partnered with royalty across universes against unstoppable aliens, got it. Alira glanced at him, and for the first time she allowed herself to see more than a reckless human. She saw bravery, determination, a spark of hope that mirrored her own. Then we fight, she said firmly, whatever it takes. The keeper stepped back, wings folding into a radiant aura. Follow me, time is short. Your enemies learn quickly and their leaders are not far behind. Ethan muttered almost to himself, they follow us even here. Yes, Alira said, tightening her grip on the edge of her armor. And if they reach this world, nothing will survive. They began moving cautiously, following the keeper through jagged valleys and rivers of light. Alira's mind raced, her soldiers, her home, her people. She could feel the bond forming between her and Ethan, fragile but undeniable. It was unspoken yet strong. Survival depended on trust, and trust was a language neither had spoken until now. Suddenly, the sky above them rippled. Shadows coalesced into the unmistakable forms of the Doom Armada's scouts. Black shards of metal streaked through the crimson clouds, closing in fast. Ethan groaned, well, that's our cue. Alira drew her sword, silver light reflecting off the alien landscape. Then we do not falter, not now, not ever. Together they faced the incoming threat, queen and human worlds apart, yet linked by a fragile, fierce bond. And as the first wave of attackers landed, the keeper's voice whispered through the air once more. The test begins, fail and all is lost. Alira's heart pounded. She looked at Ethan, saw the fire in his eyes, and felt something she had never allowed herself to feel fully before, hope intertwined with fear and an unshakable determination. The first strike was coming, and neither of them would survive unscathed. The first clash came without warning. Shadows of the Doom Armada scouts fell upon the crimson plains like a swarm of insects, their black hulls glinting under the alien sun. Ethan rolled forward instinctively, drawing a small, metallic device from his belt and pressing buttons in rapid succession. Pulses of blue energy erupted, throwing several attackers back like ragdolls. Sparks danced across the air, illuminating the jagged terrain. Alira drew her sword, its silver blade gleaming even against the eerie crimson sky. She moved with precision, cutting through the first wave of enemy scouts with elegant, deadly arcs. Her armor rang with every strike, the sound mingling with the distant hum of alien engines. Soldiers from the Doom Armada tried to encircle her, but she was a storm unleashed, her movements a mixture of grace and fury. Ethan stumbled slightly, recovering, then shouted, Alira, the left flank. Alira spun, parrying a massive black appendage that slammed down from above. Sparks flew. The impact sent her backward, but she landed on her feet, breathing hard. The sight of Ethan charging beside her, hurling pulses of energy and knocking the enemy into the air, sent a strange thrill through her chest. He was reckless but brilliant, and he refused to yield. We have to hold them until the keeper guides us, she yelled, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Ethan grinned wildly despite the chaos. Hold them, I plan to smash them. Alira's lips twitched with a brief, ironic smile, though her mind remained sharp. They fought side by side, a queen and a human against impossible odds. Each enemy struck was met with defiance, each pushback carved by determination. Then the ground beneath them shuddered violently. A massive rift tore open, this one not of light but darkness. From it emerged a shadowy behemoth, a commander of the Doom Armada. Its eyes glowed red, its limbs stretched impossibly, and it moved with terrifying intelligence. Ethan froze for half a heartbeat, then activated his device. That is a problem. Elira's sword gleamed as she stepped forward. We face it then. The behemoth struck first, sweeping its massive arm across the battlefield. Elira dove, narrowly avoiding a strike that would have crushed her. Ethan's device flared, sending a pulse that staggered the creature, but it quickly regained balance. We need a plan, Vale shouted from behind, struggling to maintain formation. Elira's mind raced. The keeper said only together can we stop them, but not alone. We must synchronize. She glanced at Ethan, their eyes locking. In that instant, words weren't needed. They understood each other. Now, she shouted. Ethan slammed his device into the ground. Energy exploded outward, creating a massive shockwave that sent the enemy commander staggering. Elira leaped onto the creature's limb, her blade slicing through armored plating. Sparks flew as metal met magic-infused steel. The creature roared, a sound that shook the air and rattled the crimson mountains. Ethan unleashed another pulse, this time more precise, hitting the creature's weak spots, while Elira moved fluidly across its body. Together, they were chaos incarnate, a storm of silver and blue. For a moment, the battlefield seemed to pause. Enemy scouts froze mid-strike, their attention locked on the queen and the human. Soldiers who had been wavering found courage, inspired by the audacity and precision of the duo. But then the ground cracked beneath them. A wave of dark energy erupted from the rift, and the keeper's voice echoed through their minds. Beware, power comes with consequence. Elira glanced at Ethan. Can you handle another pulse? I think so, he panted, wiping sweat and blood from his brow. If you can keep him distracted long enough, maybe we can. The behemoth swung again, faster this time, sending Elira skidding across the ground. Ethan leaped, activating his device, and a beam of energy shot from his wrist, colliding with her sword mid-strike. The force combined, creating an explosion of light that sent them both tumbling backward. Dust and debris filled the air. Elira coughed, struggling to see. Ethan's hand found hers instinctively, pulling her upright. We're not done, she said, chest heaving. Ethan nodded, his jaw set. Not even close. Above them, the crimson sky rippled. More rifts were forming, smaller but numerous. They would need to move fast. Elira's blue eyes met his, fierce and unyielding. We survived this, she said. Ethan's smile was half exhausted, half mad with adrenaline. Yeah, and when we do, they'll never see it coming. Together, they turned toward the incoming rifts, ready to fight not just for themselves, but for the survival of worlds unknown. The keeper's final warning echoed faintly. The trial is only beginning. And with that, the next wave of the Doom Armada descended, faster, smarter, and deadlier than before. The crimson sky burned brighter as the final wave of the Doom Armada descended. Shadows moved like liquid over the alien plains, black ships streaking across the horizon, their weapons humming with lethal intent. Elira stood at the forefront, silver armor gleaming despite scorch marks, sword raised high. Beside her, Ethan's wrist device pulsed violently, sparks flying with each calculation, each desperate attempt to hold back the enemy. Vale and the remaining soldiers formed a protective line, but the queen knew the battle would not be won by numbers alone. It would be won by will, by courage, and by the fragile, improbable bond between her and the human who had changed everything. Ethan turned to her, eyes locked. Ready. Elira took a deep breath. Always. The first strike hit like a hammer. Beams of energy lanced the ground, exploding in showers of blue sparks. Soldiers screamed, dodging as molten metal and splintered crystal rained down. Elira lunged forward, her sword slicing through one of the enemy's scouts, the blade catching fire with radiant energy as it cut through dark armor. Ethan moved with chaotic precision beside her, sending controlled pulses from his device that hurled attackers into the air, disrupted ships, and opened small rifts that swallowed enemy forces. Together, they were a storm. Her discipline, his unpredictability, a perfect, deadly balance. Keep moving, Elira shouted over the roar of battle. The heart chamber's energy still flows through me. We can turn it against them. Ethan grinned, blood and sweat streaking his face. Finally, something makes sense around here. The alien commander, the massive, shadowy behemoth that had first emerged from the rift, descended again, larger and more furious than before. Its glowing red eyes fixed on them. It moved with terrifying intelligence, anticipating their attacks, blocking their strikes, crushing the earth beneath its feet. Elira felt the strain, but she would not falter. She leaped onto its arm, sword blazing with her people's light. Sparks flew, and the creature roared, a sound that shook the plains. Ethan fired a pulse directly at its joints, synchronized with her strikes, and the combined force caused it to stumble. The Keeper's voice echoed in their minds. Now, you must channel the heart fully. Only together can you seal the rift and drive them back. Elira glanced at Ethan. No words were needed. She raised her sword high, energy from the heart chamber flowing into it, mixing with Ethan's pulsing device. The air around them shimmered, alive with power, a fusion of elven magic and human ingenuity. "On my mark," Elira shouted. Ethan nodded, ready. They struck simultaneously. Elira plunged her sword into the earth, letting the heart chamber's energy surge outward. Ethan slammed his device to the ground, amplifying the pulse. Light exploded across the plains, blinding, beautiful, unstoppable. The Doom Armada's scouts screamed as energy waves tore through their ranks. Ships faltered, metal groaning, engines failing. The shadowy commander reeled, struggling against the combined force of queen and human. Elira felt herself pushed to the limits, her body burning with exhaustion, but she did not falter. Ethan's hand found hers, grounding her, and together they channeled the power fully, light blazing so bright it rivaled the crimson sky. The enemy commander shrieked one final, piercing sound before disintegrating into fragments of shadow. The rifts collapsed, sucking back the remaining enemy forces. The crimson sky began to fade, revealing a hint of the sun's natural light. Silence fell. Only the hum of the heart chamber remained, pulsing gently as if acknowledging the victory. Elira sank to her knees, exhausted, but a smile tugged at her lips. Ethan collapsed beside her, smudged with ash and sweat, grinning despite the pain. "We did it," she whispered, voice trembling with relief and disbelief. Ethan chuckled softly. "Yeah, we did." Vale and the surviving soldiers approached, awestruck, their eyes filled with respect and gratitude. Elira rose slowly, holding out her hand. Ethan took it, and for a moment nothing else existed but the bond they had forged in fire, chaos, and impossible hope. The Keeper appeared once more, radiant and calm. "You have succeeded, child of Lithari. The worlds are safe, for now. But remember, courage can change destiny, and the smallest spark can ignite the greatest light." Elira nodded, feeling the truth of those words resonate deep in her chest. She looked at Ethan, the human who had defied everything, and realized that together they had done the impossible. Ethan tilted his head, eyes softening. "You know, you're not half bad at this teamwork thing." Elira laughed lightly, the sound carrying across the plains. "Neither are you human." And as the first rays of true sunlight pierced the crimson haze, washing the shattered plains in gold and silver, Elira knew this was only the beginning. Worlds could fall, fleets could come, darkness could rise again. But as long as courage, hope, and unexpected alliances endured, the light would always return. The Queen and the human stood together, hands clasped, hearts intertwined, ready to face whatever the universe dared to throw at them next.